Welcome to Art History with Jackie Part 2. Today we'll be looking at the piece Saturn Devouring His Son by Goya, painted in 1819. Saturn Devouring His Son is the name given to this painting by Spanish artist Francisco Goya. According to the traditional interpretation, it depicts the Greek myth of the Titan Cronus, Romanized to Saturn, who, fearing that he would be overthrown by one of his children, ate each one upon their birth. This work is one of 14 paintings Goya painted directly onto the walls of his house. These paintings were uncommissioned and never meant for public display. I wonder why. They reflect his darkening mood in that time. The next piece we'll be looking at is the Medusa by Caravaggio, painted in 1597. This image of Medusa depicts the moment she was executed by Perseus. He plays with the concept by replacing Medusa's face with his own, a play on his immunity to her dreadful gaze. Though the head is decapitated, it still appears conscious as the painting captures its final moments in silence before being defeated. Blood pours down while the mouth hangs wide open, baring teeth. Caravaggio's paintings were never in tune with the idealized themes that were prevalent during the time period. Instead, he became more intrigued with the idea of realism and incorporated it into his paintings. He practiced a technique called chiaroscuro, which was characterized by stark contrast in his images between light and dark. The next piece we'll be looking at is called Hell by Hans Memling, painted in 1485. This picture shows one of the panels of the triptych of Earthly Vanity and Divine Salvation, which is made up of 3 panels, all 3 of which are painted on both sides. This reversible painting would have been intended for use as an aid to private meditation. Its symbolism centers on the opposition between good and evil. This section of the triptych depicts hell, and would have been intended to scare any viewer into leading a pious life. To one side of a woman representing vanity and lust is an androgynous devil, representing Satan. The next piece we'll be looking at is The Judgment of Cambyses, painted by Gerard David in 1498. This piece depicts the flaying of corrupt Persian judge Sisamnes, who was sentenced to death. It was commissioned by the municipal authorities of Bruges to sit in their office in the town hall. It was meant to encourage honesty among magistrates and acted as a symbolic public apology for the imprisonment of Maximilian I in Bruges in 1488. The top right corner of the flaying scene features Sisamnes' son dispensing justice from his father's chair, now draped with the flayed skin. The next piece we'll look at is The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicholas Tulp, painted in 1632 by Rembrandt. This painting is one of Rembrandt's most celebrated works. It pictures Dr. Nicholas Tulp explaining the musculature of the arm to medical professionals. Some of the spectators are various doctors who paid commissions to be included in the painting. The body would have been that of an executed criminal. Anatomy lessons in this time were a social event. They usually took place in actual theaters, with teachers, students, and the general public being permitted to attend. Cadavers were cut open and examined. Rembrandt changed the conventions of these surgeon portraits by creating a mise en scène. This work is a fiction, not based on a real lesson. In this case, the criminal Rembrandt based his image off of was a man convicted for armed robbery and sentenced to death by hanging. The face of the corpse is partially shaded, a suggestion of umbra mortis, or shadow of death. The last piece we'll be looking at today is called The Scream by Edvard Munch, painted in 1893. The Scream is the popular name given to this piece, but it actually doesn't have a title. The agonized face in the painting has become one of the most iconic images of art, seen as symbolizing the anxiety of the human condition. Munch recalled that he had been out for a walk at sunset when suddenly the setting sunlight turned the clouds blood red. He sensed an infinite scream passing through nature. Scholars have suggested that the proximity of a slaughterhouse and a lunatic asylum to the site depicted in the painting may have offered some inspiration as well. Now paint your own version inspired by The Scream and show us what you've got at Fernie Art Station on Instagram and Fernie Art Station on Facebook. Thanks, and see you next week.